Welcome back. Um, we are talking about news writing. This would be the most basic discussion of news writing you could have. And you might wonder why there's a sports story on the page. Well, sports, I think, is the way one recounts a sporting event is quite illustrative about how we need to approach news writing or summary in general. And after all, news writing is a summary. So let's just imagine that you went to see a Rockies game and someone who did not attend the game said, "Well, what happened last night?" Surely you would say, "Rockies won 9-4." That might be all the information this person wants. But the person might say, "Well, shoot, how'd they do it?" And you'd say, "Well, Arenado hit 2 home runs and pitching was finally good and, you know, Rockies are looking okay." And that person might be satisfied and you would have met his or her uh, needs as an information consumer and a conveyor of information. The reason I like to talk about sports writing as in the mode of bad summary or bad writing is because one time I happened to judge a journalism competition, high school journalism competition, and had um, some sports stories, or I was judging a sports category, and a couple of the entries were just like I depicted it. Uh, the story was like they might have given the score in the baseball game between the Yellow Jackets and the Polar Bears, but after that it was in the first inning the Polar Bears didn't score and neither did the Yellow Jackets, and in the second inning nobody scored. In the third inning, who wants to read that? It's up to the journalist to make choices about what's most important. And that brings us to a term that's very important. It's called burying the lead. I'm not sure why the newspaper industry chooses to spell lead this way, but that's the way it is. The lead, of course, is what's the most important part of a story, and it should be up at the top. The concept is called the inverted pyramid, and if you'll imagine a pyramid, you'll imagine the fat end of the pyramid. That's what we want at the top in a news story, and it's up to the reporter to choose. Now, in a baseball story, the obviously the most important thing is who won and what the score was, and then it might be how did the team achieve this. But name your other news story. Name let's say if it was a press conference, the story wouldn't be that there had been a press conference. That would be basically immaterial to the readers. What was said at the press conference would be material, and what was the most important thing said at the press conference would be the lead in a story about a press conference. So the problem of bearing a lead is that when you force readers to wade through a whole bunch of information to find the most important thing. That's the job of the reporter or the news writer. The other obviously important aspect of news writing is making sure that these key components are said rather early, not necessarily in the lead, but surely within the first 2 to 3 paragraphs, we ought to have a clue as to what the 5 W's are. And after that, and a lead paragraph is very short. It's not anything like an essay style paragraph. After that, news writing is designed very differently than say essay style writing, where paragraphs are compositions unto themselves. In a news style, particularly in a newspaper article, paragraphs are small. Basically, it's each separate thought is its own paragraph, and each quotation is its separate paragraph. Now, why would that be? Because newspapers understand that they're in a battle for time relative to the reader's obligations. We know people are in a hurry. We know that they're going to commit only a certain amount of time to reading something in the newspaper or all of the newspaper. So we want to give them as much information in small bites as is possible. And you could consider a headline to be a news story unto itself if that's all the information that the reader has time to look at. But hopefully, if we put the most important stuff up at the top and write in short sentences and use small bites, we'll be pulling the readers down from the lead into other stuff that's important and ultimately making those readers hang around for a while and possibly read the advertisements that the advertisers have paid so much money to put in the paper. Now we talk about appetites. This truly depends on what the consumer wants. If the consumer has purchased a magazine, that individual expects to lounge around in the magazine and read a long analysis. Whereas if he or she has purchased a newspaper, then there may be opportunities to have the long analyses, particularly in a Sunday paper. But we know that because of the time constraints, newspapers want to stay relatively brief and also understand that readers may not finish the whole article, but if we can get 6 or 7 paragraphs to someone before that person has to bolt, then that is important, and that's something that has met the need of the reader. Well, now let's talk about the press release, which is very much like it follows the same principles as news writing, in that you understand that a press release is not going to be a lot of information unless the newspaper decides it's so important that, let's say, it would assign a reporter to cover whatever this is, whatever you're trying to announce. And it very well may happen that happens, that the newspaper staffs a story that comes out of a press release. So what do you need to do when you write a press release? And the fact is that many of you will be doing this, whether it's for an organization, a nonprofit, a business, your own business. You'll want to get the information out to the newspaper or the television station or radio stations. Certainly you'd want to send press releases to all media entities to do so. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to follow the basics of news writing. You need to write short sentences. You need to put the most important information at the very top. There won't be a lot of room for extraneous material, so you make choices. You basically need to do this. You need to know 2 audiences. What are they? Well, the first and most important one, believe it or not, is the editor, someone you may not know. You need to find out who this person is. So if you have a press release, call the newspaper, call the radio station, call the TV station, find out to whom you need to get the press release. Okay? So it goes to that person, so it doesn't end up in just some inbox that no one's going to check. Also, you need to provide contact information, your phone number, an email address. So if the newspaper, radio station, or TV station has any questions, that entity can get a hold of you. And what's the other audience? Well, of course, it's the readers in your community. Now, how do you take into consideration that audience? One thing you do is you don't think of a press release as some means of self-aggrandizement or a way to try and get someone's name in the newspaper. The readers don't necessarily want that. They want to get information that's useful to them. Write for your audience and only your audience. In other words, I've seen press releases that had little nuggets in there, like Gladys Schifrin brought the Jello salad for the meeting, and Gertrude White gave the Pledge of Allegiance. Who cares? That organization doesn't understand what a press release is about, and that information is going to go away. Hopefully, or possibly, the whole press release will go away. I've also seen press releases that had footnotes, believe it or not. Yeah, those are going to be very useful to the readers. Nope, not at all. So what do you need to do when you write a press release? You need to write a very short news story. Simple as that. And you need to put the most important information up high. You need to keep it concise. Generally, you don't want to have a press release that exceeds a page. You want to do for the editor with this information what he or she would be doing anyway. You need to spell correctly. You need to write short sentences. You need to use an inverted pyramid and know that possibly some of the information may not make it. So ideal of the press release is one that actually the editor doesn't do anything to. The editor thinks is so clean and treats information so importantly that he can just place it all in toto in the newspaper. And that will be a successful press release. We're going to have some activities in class about these, about news writing and press releases. So remember how important it is to save the editor the hassle of having to cut unimportant material from a press release, from rattling on, um, and making the editor have to find what is most important in a press release, and when one buries the lead. We don't want to do that. Yeah. Well, those are all good things I hope for you to understand, and we will let you go now. Bye bye.